They are still. Secure him.
What is the charge?
Stay out of it.
He didn't do anything!
Record the time. Pick up the note. It can wait. It has waited 11 years.
Sergeant, he needs the cane.
He can walk.
Why is he restrained?
Because he refused. Refused what?
Enter the reason for detention.
You give no orders here.
I need a legal basis.
Write nothing. Sergeant, we should verify him. Follow instructions.
We all heard it.
We all heard it. Put the phone down. Call the number. Seal could be fake. The name matches.
It takes 30 seconds.
Nobody calls anyone. Then preserve that refusal. Quiet!
Recording started.
You are being processed for asking a question. For asking a question? What time is it?
11:40. Who are they waiting for?
Someone who is already here.
Remove those cuffs!
His identity is...
Where's the booking record? There isn't one.
Sergeant saw the notice. Be careful.
He was expected at City Hall.
Expected for what?
Preserve every... This is the incoming police chief.
Chief, remove the restraints. The recording is secured.
The ceremonist table.
The handcuffs clicked around the old veteran's wrists before anyone in the courtroom asked his name. His cane struck the marble floor, a folded note slipped from his coat, and one officer smirked as spectators looked away. Why was a decorated black veteran being treated like a threat? Why did the security sergeant refuse to verify the sealed letter in his pocket? And why were city officials suddenly racing toward the courthouse? The elderly man never raised his voice. He only watched the clock, knowing noon would change everything. Stay to the end, because the badge waiting across town was meant for him. The note landed beneath the first bench, face down on cold marble. Elijah Brooks watched it slide past a polished shoe while Officer Caleb Vance tightened the second cuff. "Hands still." "They are still," Elijah said. The chain gave a metallic rattle. Above the empty judge's chair, the clock clicked toward 10:18. The room smelled of floor wax, wet wool, and burnt coffee. Sergeant Owen Pike stepped between Elijah and the note. "You were told to leave the restricted row." "I asked to see the rule." "You argued with an officer." "I asked twice." A woman in the gallery lowered her phone. A man beside her studied the carpet. No one spoke. Elijah nodded toward the paper. "That belongs to me." "It can wait." "It has already waited 11 years. For half a second, Vance's grip loosened. Pike noticed. "Secure him." Vance guided Elijah away from the front row. His cane lay 3 feet behind them, its black handle catching pale window light. Without it, Elijah widened 1 foot. His right knee trembled once, then locked. "Reason for detention?" he asked. "Disrupting court operations." "Court is not in session." "You don't decide that." "No, the record does." At the clerk's desk, Maya Torres stopped sorting files, one hand resting on a blue folder. "Sergeant, should I open an incident entry?" Pike's jaw shifted. "Not yet." Elijah turned his head. "Please record the time." "You don't give instructions here." "I'm asking her to preserve a fact." The second hand crossed 12. Maya looked up. 10:19. Pike stared at her. "Return to your work." A ventilation fan hummed overhead. Vance reached for Elijah's elbow. "Can you walk without the cane?" "I can walk." "That wasn't the question." Elijah met his eyes. "Yes." They moved toward the side door. Each step cracked through the silence. Halfway there, Elijah's shoe slipped on a damp patch. Vance caught him under the arm. "Easy." "I said I could walk. I did not say the floor was dry." Several people looked up. One older man shifted as if to stand, then stayed seated. Pike picked up the cane and held it away. "Property will be returned after processing." "And the note?" "I told you, it can wait." The paper's edge lifted in warm air from a floor vent. One faded line turned upward. "Come home as yourself." Elijah's shoulders lowered by less than an inch. Vance saw it. "Is that from family?" Move, Pike said. The side door opened with a rubber scrape. A narrow corridor glowed under harsh fluorescent tubes. Elijah stopped at the threshold. One more request. Pike gave a dry laugh. You're in no position to make requests. Then consider it notice. I want the reason for these cuffs written before I leave this room. Maya's chair creaked behind them. Pike turned. Do not enter anything until I approve it. That isn't procedure, she said. It is today. Elijah looked at Vance. Did you hear that? Color drained from the young officer's face. Keep moving, sir. Elijah stepped into the corridor. The door began to close, reducing the courtroom to a strip of amber light. Before it shut, Maya reached beneath her desk and pressed a red key on the audio console. The recording light came on. At 6:12 that morning, Elijah stood barefoot on thin hotel carpet while the radiator knocked. Frost filmed the window. He buttoned his white shirt, stopping when one cuff brushed the bronze service pin on the dresser. Ruth's note rested against the mirror, softened by 11 years in his wallet. Come home as yourself. The phone vibrated beside cold coffee. You're awake, he said. Camille answered through a car speaker. A turn signal clicked behind her voice. I never went back to sleep. You're already driving? I said I'd come. You also said no speech. No speech about sacrifice while pretending you invented it. Elijah looked at the smooth half of the bed. No medals. No stories about service. That's not what I meant. Then tell me. Tires hissed over wet pavement. I need you to arrive before everyone else becomes more important. He rubbed his right knee. I'll be there by 11:30. You said that at my graduation. I know. Mom saved you a seat anyway. The radiator struck once. I have one stop first, Camille exhaled. Of course. It won't take long. That sentence always takes long. The appointment letter lay beside an envelope for the courthouse administrator. I want you there when they pin it on. I'm coming for Mom, she said. Not the badge. The call ended. Elijah dressed in a charcoal suit, burgundy tie, and black overcoat. He polished the cane and fixed the bronze pin above his heart. At 6:45, someone knocked. Rebecca Sloan entered with 2 paper cups and a binder. You're wearing the old pin. It still holds. So does a rusted bridge. She set down the coffee. Cinnamon and burnt beans cut through the dry heat. The council wants you at City Hall by 10:30. Photographs at 11. Oath at noon. I'll arrive before the photographs. After where? The municipal court. Rebecca stopped. Unannounced? I want to see an ordinary morning. There is no ordinary morning when the new police chief walks in. There is if no one recognizes him. She glanced at the letter. Greyhaven has waited 6 months. It can spare 90 minutes. Owen Pike controls courthouse security. I read his file. You read the hiring panel version. That is why I'm going. Let me warn Judge Ward. No. Take a driver. No uniform. No escort. You promised Camille. I promised to reach the ceremony. That is not the same promise. He felt Ruth's note against his chest. No, it isn't. Rebecca handed him a card. My direct number. Keep it behind your identification. I know it. People forget numbers when a room turns against them. He accepted it. At the door, she touched the bronze pin. What would Ruth say? Elijah opened the door. Cold air moved across his face. She already did. In the lobby, he called Camille again. Voicemail. I'll be there before noon. Save the seat for me. Outside, rain glazed the sidewalk. A bus exhaled at the curb, and a courthouse bell marked 7. Elijah tightened his hand around the cane and started toward the building no one had been told he would enter. The courthouse doors opened against a gust of rain, and Elijah stepped into a lobby smelling of damp stone, disinfectant, and old paper. Water tapped from his overcoat onto gray tile. He set his cane beside the security tray. "Pocket's empty," the guard said. Elijah placed his glasses case, wallet, keys, and bronze service pin in the tray. The guard glanced at the pin. "Military? Long ago. Courtroom 2. Keep the cane on your right." "Why?" "So the camera sees your free hand." Elijah looked toward the black dome above them. "Camera 3? The guard raised his eyes. "You count them?" "I notice where people are told to stand." Beyond the checkpoint, muddy boot prints crossed the polished corridor to a bench under a flickering light. Daniel Cross sat there, 59, broad beneath a worn green coat, his gray beard uneven. A paper hospital band circled one wrist. A young public defender balanced files on his knee. "You slept near the terminal again?" he asked. "It was raining." "The order says you can't stay there after midnight." "The shelter locked at 10. "You have proof?" Daniel lifted the wristband. "Hospital discharged me at 10:40. "That proves where you were, not why you went there." Elijah stopped beside them. Cold air leaked from the stairwell. "What time does the last bus leave?" he asked. The defender frowned. "This is confidential." "Then don't answer." Daniel rubbed his wet sleeve. 11:15, before they released me." Elijah nodded and moved to the records desk. Maya Torres arranged blue folders beside a chipped mug of steaming coffee. "Is courtroom 2 open to observers?" he asked. "When the clerk unlocks it." Her eyes moved to his wet shoulders. "You're early." "So are several cameras." She followed his gaze. "2 in the hall, 1 over the entrance, 1 at the holding door," he said. "Do they retain audio?" "Depends on the room." "How long is footage stored?" Maya stopped sorting. "Are you an attorney?" "No." "Reporter?" "No." "Then why ask?" A transport door clanged. Daniel flinched. The defender dropped a page and bent after it. Elijah lowered his voice. "A man can appear on 4 recordings and still vanish from the record." Maya studied him. "You know court systems." "I know systems." She pulled a visitor card from a drawer. "Name?" "Elijah Brooks." Her fingers paused above the keyboard as if the name had touched a memory. Then the courtroom lock clicked. Inside, the benches were cold and varnished smooth. Elijah chose the front row. Daniel entered through the side door, leaving fresh, wet prints across the clean floor. A bailiff pointed at them. "You could have wiped your feet." Daniel looked back. "On what?" 2 spectators laughed softly. Elijah turned. The laughter stopped. Maya entered with the blue folders. She noticed the muddy line, then Elijah's gaze resting on the numbered body cameras clipped to 2 officers. "Still counting?" she murmured. "Only what may matter later." Sergeant Owen Pike appeared in the doorway. His attention moved from Elijah's cane to the front row seat, then to the sealed envelope inside Elijah's coat. "That row isn't for you," Pike said. Elijah placed both hands on the cane handle. "Show me the rule." Pike stepped into the courtroom and let the door close behind him. "That row is reserved." "For whom?" Elijah asked. "Counsel, officials, people with business before the court." "I have business here." "Then state it." Elijah drew the sealed envelope from his overcoat. The cream paper was dry despite the rain. A municipal crest marked the flap. This was delivered yesterday. Pike's shoes squeaked. Hand it over. You can read the front.
I said hand it over, and I asked for the rule. Maya stood beside the clerk's desk, a blue folder against her ribs. Daniel sat 3 benches back with Jonah Reed. Pike glanced at Caleb Vance. Move him. The young officer approached. Sir, please sit in the rear. Is the front row restricted by court order? Vance looked at Pike. That is not an answer, Elijah said. You're delaying proceedings, Pike snapped. The judge's chair was empty. The clock read 8:56. Proceedings begin at 9. We have 4 minutes to verify the rule. A handbag clasp snapped shut. No one spoke. Pike reached for the envelope. Elijah lowered it enough for Pike's fingers to close on air. You don't need to understand security, Pike said. You need to comply. Maya's grip changed. That distinction matters, Elijah replied. Pike's phone vibrated. He turned away. A personnel notice filled the screen. Elijah's name appeared above a photograph, loading beneath the words, Police Chief Appointment, Ceremony at noon. Pike's thumb stopped. Then he swiped the notice away. Problem? Elijah asked. No. You looked as though you recognized something. I recognized a visitor who thinks age excuses disobedience. Vance glanced at the envelope. Sergeant, maybe we should check identification. Pike faced him. Follow the direction you were given. Elijah extended the envelope. Read the addressee. Vance leaned close. Mr. Elijah Brooks, confidential. His eyes lifted to Elijah's face. Pike snatched the envelope. This seal could be copied. The number on the back cannot. Pike turned it over. Rebecca Sloane's direct line appeared beneath a handwritten instruction. Please admit Mr. Brooks without delay. Maya stepped forward. We can call. No. It would take 30 seconds. I said no. Jonah rose halfway. On what basis are you holding his document? Sit down, counsel. I'm asking a procedural question, and I'm giving you an instruction. Jonah sat only after Daniel caught his sleeve. The courtroom door opened. A bailiff announced that the judge would be delayed 10 minutes. Pike folded the envelope down the center. The paper made a soft crack. Elijah's expression changed. Do not crease that. Then stop giving me reasons to handle it. Pike tucked the envelope beneath his arm. Remove him from the row. Vance stepped closer. Sir, please stand. Elijah rose carefully and planted the cane on the marble. Its rubber tip made a hollow tap. Maya said, Sergeant, I'm logging the document. You are doing no such thing. Her eyes moved toward the security console. Pike saw it. His thumb opened the deleted notifications folder. Elijah understood then. Pike had not failed to recognize him. He had chosen not to. Empty your pockets. Pike set the creased envelope on Maya's desk and pushed a gray plastic tray toward Elijah. It scraped across the wood with a dry sound. Elijah looked at the tray, then at the spectators returning to their seats. Is this a search? A safety check. I passed one downstairs. This one is mine. Vance stood at Elijah's left shoulder. Maya said, The lobby log shows he was screened at 8:41. Pike did not turn. Keys, wallet, everything. Elijah removed his glasses case, keys, and bronze service pin. Inside pocket, Pike said. An old metal tag came out on a short chain. Vance leaned closer. Military police? Once. Pike cut in. We are not conducting an interview. Elijah laid the tag beside the pin.
Then he drew out Ruth's folded note and kept 2 fingers on it. That too. It is personal. So is every excuse. The gallery went still. Daniel watched from the third bench, hands locked around his knees.
Jonah Reed's phone lay face down on his legal pad, its camera exposed. Elijah placed the note in the tray. "Other side," Pike said. A small photograph emerged. Camille stood beside a half-decorated ceremony platform, one hand raised against the camera. On the back, she had written, "Don't make me save your seat again." The photograph landed face up beside the molded compartment. Elijah's thumb stayed on its corner. Pike tapped the tray. "Let go." For one breath, Elijah did not move. Then he did. A woman near the aisle lowered her eyes. Maya asked, "What exactly are we looking for?" "Anything relevant." "To what allegation?" "Interference." "He asked for a seating rule." "He challenged control of the room." "That is not the same thing." Vance shifted. Leather creaked at his belt. Pike pointed at the coat. "Check the lining." Vance took it. "Sir, turn around." Elijah turned slowly. Vance ran his fingers along the seams, then stopped at the breast pocket. "There's a card." Pike took it. Rebecca Sloane's name and direct number were printed in black. "City administration," Vance said. "Old card." "Call it," Maya said. "No." "Then return it." Pike placed a card under the envelope. "Not yet." A chime came from Elijah's phone in the tray. The screen lit with Camille. He looked at the clock. 9:07. Pike turned the phone face down. "May I tell my daughter I'll be late?" "You may stop performing." Elijah's jaw tightened. "She has waited for me before." The phone vibrated again, buzzing against the plastic until the photograph trembled beside it. Daniel stood. "That's enough." Pike spun. "Sit down. He didn't do anything. Your hearing can become a detention." Jonah rose beside Daniel. "He is represented, and you are testing my patience." Elijah looked at Daniel. "Please sit." Daniel obeyed, but first pushed Elijah's cane from beneath the bench with his boot. It rolled into the aisle and stopped in full view. Maya reached for an incident form. "I am opening a record." Pike slapped his palm over the blank page. "You will do what I tell you." The sound cracked through the courtroom. Elijah's phone began vibrating a third time. This time the screen showed City Manager Sloan. The phone buzzed against the tray until Pike silenced it with 2 fingers. "City Manager Sloan," Vance said. "I can read." Elijah watched Pike turn the phone face down. "Answer it." "You don't issue orders here." "No, but you are preventing verification." Maya pulled the incident form from beneath Pike's palm. "I'm recording that." "Put it down." The clock clicked to 9:08. Rain tapped the windows, carrying the smell of wet coats through the room. Elijah reached toward the tray. Vance blocked him. "Sir, don't. My daughter called 3 times. Step back." "I haven't stepped forward." Pike sealed the phone inside an evidence pouch. "You were warned." "About asking for a rule?" "About refusing direction." Jonah raised his own phone. "I'm documenting this." "Lower it." "No law prohibits recording an open courtroom before session. Security policy does." "Show me." Pike's mouth tightened. "Vance." The young officer glanced at the gallery. "Sir, place your hands behind your back." A woman near the aisle whispered, "For what?" No one answered. Elijah folded his hands over the cane.
State the reason before you touch me. Obstruction. What action obstructed you? Vance missed the cuff case snap once. He tried again. Pike stepped closer. Stop making this difficult. It became difficult when facts stopped mattering. Vance took Elijah's right wrist. The cane struck the marble with a wooden crack. Daniel started to rise, but Jonah caught his sleeve. Don't give him another reason, Jonah murmured. The first cuff closed. Cold metal pressed over Elijah's pulse. On the desk, his bronze service pin caught the fluorescent light and reflected in the curved steel around his wrist. A tiny, distorted star trapped inside the cuff. Vance saw it. Sergeant, he said quietly, we can still call the number. Finish. The second cuff clicked. A man in back stared at his shoes. Maya's pen hovered above the form. Time? Elijah asked. 9:10. Write it. Pike snatched the page and tore it down the middle. Maya reached beneath the desk and pressed a key. A red indicator glowed on the audio console. What did you activate? Pike demanded. Routine record preservation. Turn it off. I can't without a supervisor code. You have one. Not for deletion. Without the cane, Elijah's right knee dipped. Vance caught his elbow. I've got you, he whispered. Elijah straightened. Then decide what that means. Pike retrieved the cane but kept it across his chest. Take him to holding. Daniel stood. He needs that. He can walk. You don't know that. Pike moved toward him. Daniel's shoulders drew inward, yet he stayed upright. Elijah spoke first. Mr. Cross, save your hearing. Daniel stared at him. Who saves yours? Elijah had no quick answer. Vance guided him toward the side door. The chain tightened as his arms moved. Behind him, the phone vibrated inside the pouch, muffled but persistent. At the threshold, Elijah looked back. Maya was gathering both halves of the torn form. Jonah had raised his phone again. Daniel stood beside the fallen cane. Pike was staring at the red recording light, calculating how long remained before someone outside the courtroom heard everything. The side door shut behind them with a padded thud, cutting off the courtroom voices. Watch the step, Vance said. Elijah entered a narrow corridor under fluorescent light. A vent blew cold air against his neck, carrying bleach. Pike followed with the cane under one arm and the evidence pouch under the other. Where are you taking me? Temporary holding. Has the detention been entered? You've asked that already. And you have not answered. The elevator indicator crawled from 3 to 2. Vance kept one hand near Elijah's elbow. The holding room held a metal table, 2 chairs, and no clock. A camera blinked above the door. Pike set the cane beyond the glass partition, out of reach. That is mobility equipment, Elijah said. You managed the hallway. Your officer steadied me. Vance looked down. Pike placed the sealed phone pouch beside the cane. The screen lit through the plastic. Camille, missed call. Then again. Elijah's fingers tightened inside the cuffs. Let me answer once. No. She is expecting me. Everyone has somewhere to be. That is not what I said. Pike leaned closer. You can wait until I decide what happens next. Elijah sat carefully. The chair legs scraped concrete. Record that you denied mobility assistance and a family call. You enjoy making lists. They survive longer than explanations. Pike turned the phone face down. Across town, Camille stood beside a low platform while technicians tested the City Hall microphone. Rows of folding chairs faced a blue curtain. One front row seat carried a card printed with Elijah Brooks. Rebecca Sloan entered, checking her phone. "Still nothing?" Camille asked. "His line rings. He always answers you." Rebecca stopped. "He planned to visit the courthouse first," she said. "Today?" "He wanted to observe an ordinary morning." Camille looked at the empty chair. "He promised me." Rebecca called again. 3 unanswered rings crossed the chamber before voicemail answered. "This may not be about a promise," she said. Back in holding, the confiscated phone buzzed across the shelf. City Manager Sloan. Elijah raised his head. "Answer it." Pike declined the call. Vance said, "Sergeant, if city administration keeps calling, stop." The word landed flat. Pike stepped into the corridor and drew the door nearly closed. Through the gap came fragments of his call. "Uncooperative visitor. No identification. Contained situation." Vance stood inside, hands at his sides. Elijah watched his breathing quicken. "Did you verify any of that?" Vance said nothing. "You do not have to defend an instruction you know is wrong." "I'm trying not to make this worse." "For whom?" Elijah shifted, and the cuff edge pressed deeper into his wrist. He pictured Camille beside the reserved chair, checking the entrance whenever it opened. "Officer?" Vance looked back. "My daughter will think I chose work over her again." "That's not my business." "No," Elijah said. "It became yours when you took the phone." The screen lit once more. Camille. Voicemail. Pike ended his call, slipped the phone into his pocket, and locked the holding room door from the outside. The lock clicked, and Elijah listened to Pike's footsteps fade beneath the vent's hum.
Vance remained outside the glass, then returned carrying a clipboard, a paper cup, and Ruth's folded note beneath his thumb. "You left this in the tray," he said. "Set it where I can see it." Vance placed it beside the cup. The water smelled faintly of metal. "What time is it?" 11:14. The ceremony began at noon. Elijah lifted the cup with both cuffed hands. Water spilled onto his shirt cuff. Vance reached for a napkin. "I'm sorry. For the water?" The officer stopped. Pike entered with a single-page form. "We can end this." He turned the clipboard around. The heading read, "Voluntary Acknowledgement of Disruptive Conduct." "You sign," Pike said. "We release you with no charge." "No charge exists now." "Then this costs you nothing." "It says I refused lawful instructions." "You did." "It says I created a threat." "You created a disturbance." "Different words." Pike tapped the signature line. "Choose the useful version." Vance shifted near the door. His watch showed 11:17. Elijah pictured Camille beside the empty chair, hearing another apology, prepared too late. "May I call her if I sign?" "After processing." "How long?" 10 minutes. "You said that an hour ago." "This is your way out." Pike uncapped a black pen and placed it between Elijah's hands. The barrel was warm from his pocket. Vance said, "Maybe we should remove the cuffs." "He can read." Elijah began at the top. The fluorescent tube buzzed. Beyond the wall, a cart rattled over tile. His right knee pulsed beneath the table. The final paragraph waived any complaint about the search, restraints, confiscated property, and denied communication. "This is not a release form," Elijah said. "It is a replacement record." "It is practical." "For you." "For everyone." Pike slid the clipboard closer. "Your daughter keeps calling. Sign, and you can still make whatever event you're missing." Elijah's fingers closed around the pen. Vance looked away. The point hovered above the line. 1 minute passed on Vance's watch.
Pike's thumbnail scratched the table. Elijah lowered the pen. Its tip touched the paper, leaving a small black dot beside the empty signature line. Pike exhaled. Good. Then Elijah saw the edge of Ruth's note beneath the cup. The fold had opened enough to reveal 3 words. Come home as... He set the pen down. Pike's chair scraped back. What are you doing? Going home as myself. You are throwing away your chance. No, I am refusing yours. Pike flattened both palms on the table. You think someone is coming to rescue you? I asked for a record, not a rescue. Sign it. Leave it blank. What? Preserve the document exactly as it is. The dot, the time, your offer, and my refusal. Submit it for formal review. Vance stared at the page. Pike snatched the clipboard. There will be no review. A knock sounded from the corridor. Once, then twice. Maya's voice came through the door. Sergeant, the court system requires your authorization. For what? The recording file, she said, before it transfers automatically. Pike's eyes moved to the camera above Elijah. The red light was still blinking. Pike opened the door only far enough to block the corridor with his shoulder. What transfer? Maya held a tablet against her chest. The courtroom audio. The system copied it to the county archive when the session status changed. You said you could stop it. I said I could preserve it. A printer whirred beyond her. Warm toner mixed with bleach in the hall. Pike stepped out and pulled the door nearly shut. Through the glass, Elijah saw Maya's face reflected over his own. Delete the local file, Pike said. That requires a reason code. Use equipment failure. The microphones worked. Then use accidental activation. Maya's thumb moved across the screen. The archive is at 99%. Pike leaned toward her. Cancel it. The last percent needs a supervisor credential. You have mine. No, I have the code you gave me for routine access. Inside, Vance stared at the unsigned form. Elijah nudged Ruth's note away from the wet ring beneath the cup. Officer, he said, what happens if that file disappears? Vance swallowed. I don't know. You do. The young officer rubbed his palms against his trousers. It becomes our word against yours. No, it becomes your word against his. Vance looked toward Pike's silhouette. A phone rang in the corridor. Maya answered before Pike could stop her. Municipal Court, records. Her expression changed. Yes, ma'am. He is here. Pike grabbed for the phone. Maya stepped back. No, he has not been booked. I can't see a charge entry. Elijah rose too quickly. His knee struck the table, sending the cup onto its side. Cold water ran across the form and dripped onto the concrete. Who is calling? Pike demanded. Maya kept listening. City Manager Sloan. Vance moved to the door. Pike covered the receiver. End it. She asked to speak to Mr. Brooks. He is unavailable. Elijah called through the glass. Tell her I am conscious. Maya repeated it word for word. The corridor went quiet except for the archive terminal chiming once. Pike snatched the phone and disconnected the call. You just interfered with court security, he told Maya. No, she said. I answered a public line. You are suspended from this console. Then you should know the transfer completed. On the tablet, the bar reached 100%. Pike's face emptied. Maya locked the screen and slipped the tablet under her arm. A deletion request now creates a second record. Vance opened the holding room door. Pike turned. Who authorized that? No one,
Vance said. "The room needs water cleaned before someone falls." It was a poor excuse, and all three knew it. Elijah stepped into the corridor, cuffs still on, shirt sleeve dark with spilled water. Maya gave him one brief nod. "Did the file include the gallery microphones?" he asked. "Yes." "And the timestamps?" "Yes." Pike moved between them. "This conversation is over." A second phone began ringing at the records desk. Jonah Reed stood there with Daniel beside him, both visible through the courtroom doors. Jonah lifted the receiver. "Municipal Court." He listened, then looked straight at Elijah. "It's the city manager again," he said. "And this time, she says she is already in the building." The elevator bell sounded beyond the records desk. Rebecca Sloan entered in a rain-darkened coat. Judge Helen Ward followed. "Where is Elijah Brooks?" Rebecca asked. Jonah pointed toward the corridor. Rebecca saw Elijah through the open door, wet-sleeved and cuffed. "What happened?" Pike stepped forward. "A visitor disrupted courtroom operations." "His name?" "He refused to cooperate. I asked his name." Vance started to speak, but Pike cut him off. "Identification has not been verified." Rebecca lifted her phone. "I called twice." "We were containing an incident." "You disconnected me." Judge Ward crossed the marble. "Why is a detainee in my corridor without a booking number?" "Temporary security hold." "Entered where?" "We were preparing the report." Maya raised the torn halves of the form. "He stopped me." Cold air carried wet wool through the hall. Pike pointed at her. "She is no longer assigned to records." Judge Ward took the pages. "You do not assign my clerk." Rebecca approached Elijah. "Are you hurt?" "My knee would prefer my cane." Daniel brought it from the courtroom. Elijah accepted it. "Thank you, Mr. Cross." Daniel looked at the cuffs. "You told me to save my hearing." "I was trying to save yours." Rebecca faced Pike. "Remove them." "Until identity is confirmed." Her phone chimed. She turned the screen toward Vance. An internal bulletin filled it. "Elijah Brooks, incoming Chief of Police." Beneath the heading was a formal portrait of the man standing 3 feet away in handcuffs. Vance stared. The fluorescent tube buzzed. His eyes moved from the photograph to Elijah's bronze pin, then to Pike. "Sergeant," he whispered, "you received this." Pike's jaw shifted. "I received dozens." It was marked priority. "It was sent at 7, Rebecca said. Judge Ward asked, "Officer Vance, did Sergeant Pike see it before the detention?" Vance looked down. Elijah's voice stayed quiet. "Answer her." "His phone displayed something in the courtroom," Vance said. He cleared it. Pike turned on him. "Be careful." "With accuracy?" Rebecca asked. Pike moved toward the records terminal. "This is becoming a spectacle." Maya blocked the chair. "The footage transferred to the county archive." "Move." "No." Judge Ward raised one hand. "Nobody touches that terminal." A loose blind tapped the courtroom window. Rebecca checked the clock. 11:42. "The ceremony begins in 18 minutes. Elijah looked toward the evidence pouch. Camille's name flashed on his phone, then vanished. "Call her," Rebecca said. Pike folded his arms. "The device is evidence." "Evidence of what?" Pike opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Judge Ward held up the torn report. "Bring everyone into courtroom 2. Clerk, activate the official record." Vance reached for the cuff key, but Elijah shook his head. "Not here." "You want them left on?"
I want them removed where they were applied. Judge Ward studied him. In open court. The doors swung wide. Spectators turned. Daniel carried the cane beside Elijah. Above the desk, the internal screen refreshed. Elijah's portrait appeared beneath a countdown to the noon ceremony. Pike saw it first. For the first time that morning, he stepped backward. Judge Ward took the bench without putting on her robe. Clerk, state the time. 11:44, Maya said. Begin the record. The red light above the gallery came on. It reflected in the cuffs around Elijah's wrists as Vance guided him to the front row. Pike remained near the aisle. Daniel and Jonah sat 3 benches back. Judge Ward looked at Pike. State the legal basis for the detention. He disrupted security operations. What action? He refused instructions. What instruction? To leave a restricted seating area. Produce the order. Pike glanced toward Maya. It is standard practice. That was not my question. The ventilation system clicked off. The cuff chain moved with Elijah's breathing. Judge Ward turned to Vance. Did you see a written restriction? No, Your Honor. Did Mr. Brooks threaten anyone? No. Attempt to leave? No. Raise his voice? Vance looked at Elijah. No. Pike stepped forward. He challenged authority before a full courtroom.
Authority is not damaged by a question, Judge Ward said. It is damaged by an answer that cannot survive one. Rebecca placed a folder on Maya's desk. This contains the signed appointment resolution and the notice sent to courthouse security at 7. Maya opened it. The heavy paper snapped softly. Judge Ward read the first page. Elijah Brooks was appointed Chief of Police for Greyhaven, effective today at noon. A breath passed through the room. Vance went pale. Pike said, His position does not excuse noncompliance. Elijah spoke for the first time. It should not change the standard. Judge Ward nodded to Vance. Remove the restraints. Here, Elijah said. He stepped into the center aisle where the cuffs had closed. His cane tapped once against the marble. Vance's hands shook. The key missed the lock. I'm sorry, sir. Finish the task. The first cuff opened, leaving a white line around Elijah's wrist. The second fell loose with a metallic click. He rubbed neither arm. Place them on the table. Pike frowned. Why? As evidence. Vance laid the cuffs beside Ruth's note. Rebecca asked, Do you want Sergeant Pike detained? No. Pike blinked. I want his access suspended, his communications preserved, and every instruction from this morning copied before anyone leaves. Judge Ward looked to Maya. Can that be done? The county archive has the audio. I can lock the local system and export the access log. Do it. Pike moved toward the door. You will remain, Judge Ward said. Elijah picked up Ruth's note. The fold had torn where the tray pressed it. He smoothed the paper. Camille is waiting, Rebecca murmured. The clock read 11:51. Maya returned the evidence pouch. Before Elijah could dial, the phone rang. Camille. He answered. I'm here. A pause. Where is here? Elijah looked at the cuffs, at Vance staring at his hands, and at Pike beneath the screen displaying Elijah's portrait. The courthouse, he said. Keep my seat for 9 more minutes. Judge Ward closed the folder. Mr. Brooks, before you leave, this court needs your statement. Elijah placed Ruth's note beside the microphone and sat down. Elijah adjusted the microphone until the red light sat below his eyes. My statement can wait, he said.
Preserve the room first. Judge Ward closed the gallery doors. Maya exported the audio, Jonah transferred his phone video, and Rebecca called professional responsibility. At 12:06, Lauren Kim arrived carrying a gray case. She was 44, compact, with rain beaded across her short black hair, and a habit of studying a room before greeting anyone. "Who touched the terminal after the detention?" she asked. "No one after the judge's order," Maya said. "Before that?" Pike folded his arms. "Routine staff access." Lauren set down a recorder. "That answer will need names and times." She separated them. Pike went to chambers with the city attorney. Maya stayed at the clerk's desk. Jonah and Daniel waited in the gallery. Vance sat alone at counsel table, his damp collar rubbing a red line into his neck. Lauren played the audio. Pike's voice filled the room. First control, then questions. Vance's fingers stopped on the table. "Is that an approved directive?" Lauren asked. "No." "Have you heard it before?" He looked toward the chamber door. "Since my first week." Lauren placed a message log before him. "Control the subject before they control the scene." The next line read, "Questions reward resistance." Vance unfastened his badge. His thumb slipped twice beneath the clasp before it released. He placed it face down. "I thought it meant officer safety." "What did it mean today?" His eyes stayed on the badge. "It meant I stopped listening." The radiator clicked. Rainwater ticked through a metal gutter. Lauren turned to Maya. "Why did you preserve the file?" "Because the report was torn." "Before that?"
Maya tightened her hand around a blue folder. "Because this was not the first time." She removed a receipt bearing 3 complaint numbers. 2 visitors said recordings disappeared. One was a veteran. One used a walker. I told myself I only handled records. Daniel spoke from the third bench. "That's what everybody says when the door closes." Jonah lowered his phone. "I nearly stayed seated." "You did stay seated," Daniel said. Jonah swallowed. "At first." The woman with the brown handbag raised her hand from the back row. "I saw his cane on the floor," she said. "I wanted to pick it up." "Why didn't you?" Lauren asked. "I thought they would turn on me." Another man admitted he had looked away because his own case was pending. A bailiff said Pike corrected staff publicly for questioning orders. Each voice entered the record more quietly than the last. Elijah stood near the window with Ruth's note folded inside his palm. He did not look at Vance's badge. Lauren collected the messages, torn form, and cuffs. "Sergeant Pike's devices and credentials are now subject to preservation. Officer Vance, you will provide a sworn statement." He nodded toward the badge. "Am I suspended?" "Pending review." Elijah finally faced him. "Tell the truth before someone gives you permission." Vance lifted his eyes. "He knew who you were." The room stilled. "He opened the appointment notice before he told me to cuff you," Vance said. "And there are messages proving it." 3 weeks later, the hearing room smelled of dust, hot projector plastic, and stale coffee. Every seat was taken. Pike sat at the respondent's table, his badge absent. Lauren Kim stood beside a screen. The appointment notice reached Sergeant Pike's device at 8:52 a.m. She clicked. Opened, 8:53:14. Maya's record showed Pike ordering Elijah from the front row at 8:54. Judge Ward leaned toward the microphone. "You testified that you had never seen Mr. Brooks's name." "I did not study the notice." The system records 12 seconds of active display. It could have opened in my pocket. Lauren enlarged the log. The attachment was expanded manually. Pike crushed the paper cup lid. Elijah sat behind Rebecca, Ruth's note inside his coat and his cane between his shoes. Camille sat beside him. Commission Chair Arthur Bell, 63, said, "Play the audio." Pike's voice filled the room. This seal could be copied. Then Elijah's. The number on the back cannot. Rebecca's direct number appeared beneath the access time. Arthur removed his glasses. You knew who he might be, refused verification, and ordered restraints anyway. I was protecting the courtroom. From what? No answer came. A woman with a folding walker approached the microphone. Its rubber feet squeaked. I filed a complaint last February, she said. They took my cane because I questioned my son's hearing change. Arthur checked the record. Disposition? Unsubstantiated. Footage? Unavailable. A delivery driver testified next. Then an older veteran held for entering the wrong corridor. Each file read, recording failure, incomplete report, no violation. Maya opened a blue folder. Sergeant Pike authorized every closure. Pike stood. This is becoming a trial of every decision I made. Sit down, Arthur said. The chair scraped sharply. Vance entered in a plain navy jacket. A pale rectangle marked where his badge had hung. Did Pike tell you to delay reports? Lauren asked. Yes. Delete recordings? He called it clearing accidental captures. Did you obey? Twice before, Mr. Brooks. A murmur moved across the room. Vance faced the gallery. I told myself I was new, that I needed the job, that someone above me would stop it if it was truly wrong. Daniel said, Nobody above you was in the cuffs. Vance lowered his head. No, sir. At 4:38 p.m., Arthur read the findings. Pike had concealed information, ordered an unsupported detention, interfered with records, and pressured staff to create a false account. Termination is sustained, Arthur said. Further review will follow. Pike rose slowly. After 22 years? Arthur looked at the screen, where 8:53:14 still glowed. Because of what you chose, during 12 seconds. Vance received a demotion, 1 year of probation, and mandatory testimony in every reopened complaint. Outside, rain struck the courthouse steps. Reporters called Elijah's name, but he stopped beside Maya, Daniel, and Camille. Will this be enough? Camille asked. Elijah watched evidence boxes pass through the side door. No, he said. Consequences close a case. Rules prevent the next one. He turned toward City Hall, where a blank policy board waited for its first line. The first line on the board read, Whether before you restrict. Elijah capped the marker. The room smelled of ink, coffee, and damp wool. Rebecca Sloan folded her hands. The council is prepared to issue a formal apology. To me? To you and the public. Then keep my name out of the first paragraph. Arthur Bell frowned. Your case forced this review. My title forced attention. The procedure failed before anyone knew it. Sarah Mitchell sat near the door, 46, coordinator of veteran outreach. A silver braid hung over one shoulder as she turned a service coin beneath her thumb. People sleeping outside won't carry appointment letters, she said. Neither will someone discharged at midnight. Daniel said, and they won't have a city manager calling.
Elijah wrote a second line. Document the reason in real time. The city attorney raised a hand. Officers need discretion. They need it recorded. What if circumstances move quickly? Then the explanation should move with them. Maya placed 3 blue folders on the table. Recordings cannot stay under the control of the supervisor named in a complaint. Independent storage, Rebecca said. Automatic transfer, Maya corrected. No local deletion. By afternoon, the board held 5 rules. Verify identity when feasible. Keep mobility aids within reach. Document family calls. Copy recordings outside the department. And protect employees who refuse unlawful orders. Vance stood at the back. What happens when a new officer hears 2 commands? Which 2? The written policy and the sergeant beside him. Sarah stopped rolling the coin. You ask for the lawful basis, Elijah said. If none is given, you do not lend your hands to it. And if it costs the job? It may. That is why the policy protects the person who asks. 2 weeks later, 30 officers faced a screen in a converted records room. The lights dimmed, leaving warm dust and projector plastic in the air. Maya played the footage without names, titles, or the final announcement.
An elderly black man stood beside the front row while a sergeant demanded compliance. Pause there. The frame froze before the appointment document appeared. Only the cane, sealed envelope, and cuffed hands remained visible. What do you know about him? Elijah asked. He refused an instruction, a recruit said. What else? He asked for the rule. Another added. He had already been screened. Sarah leaned against the wall. Daniel watched from the doorway. Would your answer change if he were homeless? No one spoke. A judge? Nothing. The incoming chief? Several faces shifted. Elijah pointed to the frozen image. Then your answer was never about the conduct. He restarted the recording. Every officer heard Maya request a legal basis and Pike order her to stop writing. At the end, Vance stepped forward. I closed the cuffs, he said. The policy was missing, but so was my courage. He did not ask forgiveness. He showed them where to refuse. That evening, Elijah mounted the unsigned form beside the new rules. Beneath it, he left one empty space for the handcuffs still sealed as evidence. On the opposite wall, the frozen frame remained printed without his name. 3 months later, Camille stood behind Elijah in the City Hall chamber, fastening the chief's badge to his dark uniform. Her fingers missed the clasp once. Hold still, she murmured. I am. You never were. An empty chair waited beside the front row. Ruth's faded note rested on its seat beneath the bronze service pin, the paper that had followed Elijah into the courthouse and back out again. Rebecca stepped to the microphone. Chief Brooks requested that today begin with the courthouse review. A screen displayed the new procedures: independent video storage, written reasons for restraints, protected reporting channels, mobility aid safeguards, and quarterly civilian audits. Applause began, but Elijah looked first at Camille. You came, he said. You finally did too. She pressed the badge flat against his chest. 2 weeks later, Daniel Cross unlocked a furnished apartment arranged through the city's veteran housing program. A bus schedule hung beside the refrigerator, and a dry coat waited on a wooden peg. Sarah Mitchell handed him the key. No curfew tied to the last bus, she said. Daniel turned it in his palm. How long? 6 months, with support after that. He placed his old hospital band in a kitchen drawer. Maya Torres joined the Independent Oversight Board,
and kept the torn incident form in a sealed evidence sleeve. At the first meeting, she read each reopened complaint aloud. The woman with the walker heard her case restored. The delivery driver received a corrected record. Every missing file entered the quarterly report, including those the city could not recover. Owen Pike appealed his termination. The appeal was denied. The final order cited concealed notice, unsupported detention, interference with records, and pressure on junior staff. He signed for his property, folded the decision once, and left through the same corridor where Elijah's cane had been taken. Caleb Vance completed probation at a lower rank and was not returned to courthouse duty. Instead, he entered classrooms with recruits and played the recording of his own voice saying, "Sir, place your hands behind your back." At first, he stood near the door. By spring, he stood beside the screen. "What should I have asked?" he said. "What rule was broken?" a recruit answered. "And if no one can tell you?" "Don't close the cuffs." The handcuffs arrived at the training center after the evidence hold. Elijah declined the glass case the council ordered. He mounted them on a plain board beneath one sentence: "Ask before you assume." On the first anniversary, he entered the empty classroom before dawn. Rain traced the windows. The cuffs hung open. Ruth's note sat beneath them, repaired with archival tape. Camille appeared, carrying 2 coffees. "You still arrive early." "I am learning to leave on time." She handed him a cup. "Do you read it every day?" "No." "Only difficult days?" "Only honest ones." At 8, officers, clerks, veterans, and observers filled the room. Daniel took the front row. Maya placed a blue folder on the table. Vance waited beside the projector. Elijah picked up his cane. "No titles for the first exercise," he said. "Just actions." The lights dimmed. On the screen, an elderly man stood beside a courtroom bench while someone ordered him to move. This time, the room asked why. The cuffs remained open. If you have ever witnessed someone being judged before they were heard, share what happened in the comments. Your experience may help another person recognize the moment when staying silent becomes a choice. Send this story to someone who believes dignity should never depend on a title, uniform, age, or appearance. Stories like Elijah's matter because quiet courage is often invisible until one person decides to preserve the record, ask the missing question, or refuse the wrong instruction. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, accountability, and changes that reach beyond a single case. Thank you for listening all the way to the final open pair of cuffs.